Here we go, guys. Here we go. The vault. Now that's Gothic, ladies and gentlemen. So right now, the area we're in wouldn't actually be shaped like this if it was true Gothic. We are in what's called the transept here. That space right there is meant to act as the metaphorical transition. Because while inside a Catholic church, this is not meant to be like a religious discussion. This is how the architecture is designed, right? So the architecture is designed with the religion in mind. So we're not going to talk religion here, but we're just talking like the religious facts that you need to know to understand why churches are designed the same way you would need to know why certain mosques are a certain shape or things like that. So while you are celebrating a Catholic Mass, a ceremony, right? Their Sunday service. The Catholic faith teaches that you are in the actual presence of God. There is a moment called transubstantiation where they believe that God actually comes into the bread and the wine. And that's an actual physical manifestation. And that you relive the moment that the Catholic faith's Lord and Savior Jesus died for you, when it happened in time, and you relive through that. And for any of you not familiar with the Christian faith, it is taught that then 3 days later he rose from the dead. And that you relive that whole experience every Sunday. Every Sunday you re-experience it, not as a metaphor, that it is literally like there. It's a Doctor Who time travel machine. It's a little more ceremonious than that, but there is a ton of tradition in the Catholic Church because it is protecting that. And so that means that architecturally it would have been taught back in a time when people could not read. So everything had to be a very literal metaphor because people couldn't read religious texts. Only priests could read. And so it was taught that while inside here, while you are inside a Catholic church, that this room that we are in right here would have been immune to time. We're not, because it can take us back in time. And so to leave your problems of the world out behind you when you come inside the church, you need to have a transition space. And so that initial room there would have been, the transept would have been the place that you walked through to act as a place to kind of prepare yourself to step into this timeless space. Cathedrals were not in every city. They still aren't. So the Catholic Church has local churches, which are called parishes, and cathedrals sit as kind of your regional government. Because they're expensive. And back then they would have been really expensive. They would have taken a long time to build. Because of the literacy rate, they were oftentimes built by families. The construction knowledge of churches was often passed down through family lineage by families that refer to themselves as master builders, which is a way cooler name than architect. And so master builders would have been these families, and they would have built these churches. And so it was an iterative knowledge. So you can see most of the time, these churches, you can see like which families built them and how they got better with time, either as resources became available or as knowledge became available. And they experimented with technology. And so there was a drastic shift when they got to where they could do iron. And so you had this sudden surge of churches in Italy at the time when they could do iron because they had these tie rods that came and held the walls together. Because those big things on the outside, those are called buttresses. And as you build up, you put a roof on the top, and that holds the walls together. But then that roof is shaped like a V, and it pushes those walls out. And buttresses act like big, any of you that have like a bookshelf, you might have bookends that literally keep the book standing upright if you don't have an entire shelf of books. Buttresses work the exact same way. It's just mass on the outside. And so as we work up, the reason these would have been like this is these columns have to get thinner and thinner at the top because these were just raw masonry. So these days, masonry, when you see like a brick house, The brick is non-structural. The brick is just cosmetic. It could be replaced by siding. It doesn't matter. The houses in modern day are held up by wood. Commercial buildings are either wood frame or metal frame. They're not we don't build masonry buildings anymore. It's an enormous waste of resources. They're incredibly expensive. And you can't go as high. There is a certain point where no matter how thick you make the wall, it's just going to crush the brick below it. So it sets a cap on how big it can be. So that would have all been how this kind of worked its way up. Now, because we know that Ishgard came after, this city likely has structures, or at least updates, that would have taken place after them being able to build alongside the dragons. They had access to something that was not Gothic. So Gothic was iterative here on Earth, and it came out of previous architectural styles. As building technology advanced, religion was the only cause great enough to justify these incredibly expensive things. The church back then also acted as kind of government body. It's where we get a lot of like birth records and things like that. It was a lot more than just a religion. I mean, it's where literacy was. They had a huge political and economic influence on the region. And so if you think of it here on Etheirys, in Eorzea, the church in Ishgard has those influences. They have a lot of those same hallmarks. But building technology-wise, they would have had the past knowledge, whether or not they're willing to credit it. The building technology, likely portions of it, would have lingered from the cities they built that were meant to host dragons. Which means that buttresses, tie rods, all of those things, they could likely bypass that, because when we were out in Dravania, those structures were substantially taller than any Gothic cathedral could be. So this doesn't have to make sense. Also, not knowing all of the tenets of their faith, they may not need a transept. There may not be transubstantiation as part of their religious faith, and so the building doesn't need to reflect that, because form ultimately follows function, and so that transept could be different. Right? Because it's not Catholicism. It's clearly inspired by Catholicism from like a game development standpoint. Just like when we get into Endwalker, there is a ton of Greek references. As we look down the nose of more Pandemonium, there's a ton of Greek references, but it's not Greek. So anytime they want to like rewrite part of it, they're not bound by the rules and laws of Greek myth. That's a starting point, and they can take it whatever direction they want. So it would be interesting to kind of learn more about the Ishgardian faith and see what the Archbishop's actual teachings are, as far as like the everyday person believes, what their teaching faith is, and how they're passing along. Religion has often acted not just as something to help you understand your place in the universe and what happens after you die and all that, but it's also acted as a way to like just pass along basic good practices. You know, don't murder each other, don't cheat on your spouse, don't take something.
I'll cut you to pieces!
This guy's gonna talk. This is Sir Grinno. Okay, that makes way more sense. I always thought this was just like a random dude. I was like, why is he voiced? Oh, that makes way more sense. Oh, that way. I was so confused every time I get this in leveling roulette. Why is this voice?
I will not yield to you!
Yeah, that's fine. I'm gonna kill you. No, we're good. Whoa.
I have the power!
That's a neat trick. Is that dragon blood they activated? You don't look very dragonish. How did they grow like that? Is that ethereally powered? Because dragons aren't necessarily...
Down with you!
Oh man, I'm confused by this. Okay, cool. So, there's a lot of interesting stuff we can see from the architecture of this building and the vault, and the fact that this is used as a place for their politics to take place would make sense, because it protects them. If an average person ever dismisses something the Archbishop teaches, there is this kind of logic to, like I said, we're not here to talk about religion today, but imagine a religion was governing a set of people who were all getting sick from
Down with you!
Drinking from a certain water, or eating pork, or not caring for their children, or having unsafe sex. Whether or not they understood it medically, they just had this set of things that were going on, and people were dying. There is something really nice about a religion being able to say, hey, I need you to not do that. I need you to not eat pork. I need you to not, whatever that is. And there is something really nice about a religion being able to say, if somebody goes, well, Chris the mod here says I can't eat pork. Why the hell would I listen to him? And the Archbishop can go, actually, it's not me saying it, it's God saying it. That's way better. That's way better. It holds way more authority. So the Archbishop likely used the position of faith as a way of gaining credibility among the Ishgardian citizens. And so that's why they likely have never asked more about the Ishgardian history, because it's not coming from the archbishops. It's not coming from the Temple Knights. The Temple Knights are just relaying on what historic power has already condoned. They're just being good stewards, right? So it's not, no. I mean, if we just had to listen to Temple Knights, I might think some of the Temple Knights were dicks, and I didn't believe them. But knowing that the Temple Knights are condoned by God and are therefore infallible, or that they are some perfect bloodline, or whatever the teachings of Ishgard may be, protects them from saying, hey, this guy I knew once told me something and got it wrong. What if you got it wrong too? Oh, well, I'm different than that person. I can't get it wrong because my teachings came directly from something much bigger than me. If you just had to trust me, I would totally understand why you didn't believe me. But actually, where I got these teachings from is infallible. And so it really protects the Ishgardian Temple Knights if that's the case, if that's what's being taught. There's a real logic to that. And so having their headquarters and having their place of retreat here be the religious structure makes a lot of sense, because it means that the only people that come attack them here are going to be the absolute most against them. And as long as they can defend us, they will be able to tell the public that we were heretics and bury it. Because I'm not fighting them in some big dank dungeon right now, some basement where they shouldn't be. I'm fighting them in their religious structure. How dare me? Can you believe these outsiders came into our place of worship and attacked priests, innocent priests? Can you believe that? Oh my God. Innocent little priests. I have to be we've got to be the bad guys, right? So like, if we fail here, if this dungeon ends in failure, we are the bad guys, and history will show us as the bad guys. Because, for example, they wouldn't have Void Scent. Those are gargoyles. Those are gargoyles. They're not Void Scent. These aren't Void Scent. That would be crazy. Void Scent would imply that we have a relationship with possibly something darker, something gross. And anybody who says these gargoyles are really just Void Scent, that would be somebody heretical, trying to undermine the faith. Probably for malicious gains. And so you should really just listen to us. Don't question them. If anything, report them to us, and we'd be happy to remove them and their family. So this whole structure is set up to facilitate all of that. Look at this guy. You didn't know that if you don't have enough, like, iodine and stuff? Yeah, so a lot of the, like, religious, you eat this certain thing. You have to think, like, if a religion teaches you that your body is your temple, something to be...
Filthy rats!
Filthy rats, come on. Come on. Then you have to imagine, just imagine this, even if a religious scholar had no idea that fish was going to help prevent goiters, or that citrus fruits were going to help prevent scurvy. If somebody felt blessed by God to be given the chance to eat citrus fruit, and then for some reason they magically got better, suddenly, would it not seem like God was rewarding you for taking care of his blessings?
And now the final curtain!
It's not necessarily that, like, the lack of a CDC or FDA was, like, some malicious, oh, religious scholars knew proper health. Like, they were being sent messages of, people eat this and they seem to do better. It must be good. So, like, there's a real logic to it. And it's why going back and looking at early religious texts, some of it's just misunderstood.
This shall be a mercy.
But sometimes we learn that, like, previous religious texts, like, we're now learning, we're getting better and better at documenting that halal and kosher butchered beef is literally healthier for you. There's less stress hormones in the meat because of a ethical slaughter.
Sickness must be purged.
So while Christians don't have to eat kosher, but Jewish practitioners
Begone with you!
do, right? Oh, come on. Oh, God. Then, like, they kind of lost something that was healthy.
Sickness must be purged.
What's going on, sweet? First time here? Kind of. It's my first time to know who Sir Sharbart is. Sharbart's this jerk who can, like, leap from tall buildings. My God, the man's a legend. We've already fought with him today. So this is my first, so exclamation point skipper. We'll tell you how to catch up.
Sickness must be purged.
Thank you, Chris. Cool. Get out of here. No. How can you? That's right. That's right. Do I get a cutscene from him? So that made way more sense. The mid-boss, I always wondered why that was voiced. It's voiced because it's significant. It always felt so weird that Grinnell was voiced. That was awesome. That was awesome. That was awesome. Cool.
Our power! How can this be? Fall back!
Hey guys.
Father, please!
We were not too late, my friend.
Oh, ever the joyful friend.
Why must you do this, Father? Nidhogg is fallen. There is no need for further deception. Now is the time to renounce the lies which led us down this path. To start anew!
Oh, you sweet summer child.
And tear down the very pillars of our society? Our history, our values, everything we have built over 1,000 years? A fool to the last.
Yeah, if it'd been 50 years, that would have made sense, but they have built an entire infrastructure off of this in every sense of the word. I understand why Thornton feels this can't go, even if you ignore the selfish desires. Just running the risk of... I can see why that's scary. Who's that?
Look out!
What's your plan, man? What a shield. Shiny like a wet otter. Do something!
Go. Asisla awaits.
Lord Orchefort!
You are unharmed? Forgive me. I could not bear the thought of... Oh, do not look at me so. A smile better suits a hero.
Is he really dead?